Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, In Balance, Mind, Body, and Meeting Wellness, presented by Meetings Today with Deborah G. My name is Lori Tenney, Director of Strategic Content with Meetings Today, and I'm excited to welcome you to this webinar, one of the many that we offer. Our webinars cover a variety of topics that are very important to the meetings industry, and we hope you'll join us for them all. We also offer a number of newsletters, including our Meetings Today news update, the popular Meetings in a Minute planner tips, and our more recent Friday with Joan newsletter in collaboration with Joan Eisenstadt. And that's all in addition to our monthly magazine, as well as all of our great content on the web at meetingstoday.com. Also, for all of you into wellness, be sure to check out our monthly In Balance Wellness section in our print and digital magazines and on our website, which is filled with wellness-oriented tips and trends designed to help meeting planners incorporate well-being into their agendas as well as into their own lives. There are also numerous articles from our In Balance section that live on the Wellness Webinar Club page that you'll be directed to. We would like to begin today with a brief polling question. A pop-up should appear on your screen momentarily, and it will read, "Please enter the number of people watching this event with you, and please make sure to include yourself." To answer the question, simply select your response and click Submit. Thank you. So today's webinar is worth 1 clock hour of credit in the meeting or event design domains toward the CMP application through the EIC. To receive credit for attending this webinar, you must be present for the full hour. Upon completion of the webinar, you'll be taken to the related Meetings Today Webinar Club page to obtain your credit. And we encourage you to ask questions during the presentation. You may submit your questions at any time by typing your question in the Ask a Question box below the speaker photo on the left-hand side of the slide deck and hitting send. And should you experience any technical difficulties during the presentation, please send a message in the Q&A area, or you can call 800-553-8878. As always, we would like to thank our generous sponsors who make it possible for us to bring these events to you at no charge. Today, we'd like to thank our West sponsor, Park Hyatt Beaver Creek Resort and Spa, and our national sponsors, Naples, Marco Island and Everglades CVB, and Palace Resorts Headquarters. And now I would like to introduce today's speaker, Deborah G., also known as Deb. In her 20-plus years of work in the events and hospitality industry, Deb has worked with a number of diverse companies, from Walt Disney World and Fairmont Hotels and Resorts to the private sector of events in Toronto with the Spoke Club, Toronto Film Festival, and Oliver and Bonacini events. Her recent transition into the retail and wellness world of Lululemon was a perfect way to combine her love of intentional events, fitness, yoga, and a healthy lifestyle. Her work with Lululemon has brought her to a whole new understanding of community engagement, working with a collective and designing events that encourage the world to leave it in a better place than we found it. Deb continues to enjoy mentoring and teaching and evolving daily with Lululemon, where she gets to reinvent the way their guests interact in Lululemon stores through experiential retail and guest experience design. Deborah also creates unique pop-up shop and interactive opportunities for the company's guests through mobile activations that can reach even the most remote locations, bringing meditation, yoga, and personal development to the world. And with that, I would like to extend a warm and healthy welcome to our speaker, Deb G. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Lori. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in. I wish I could see everybody's face. It would be so fun to have that interaction. It would probably look a bit like the Brady Bunch on steroids with everyone's faces on the screen. We'll work on that technology for next time. But as Lori said, I have the pleasure of currently working with Lululemon, and in my role of experiential design, I get to work on all kinds of activations and retreats and events that bring all kinds and weave all kinds of wellness, healthy habits, and of course, yoga and meditation, along with personal development into every part of what we offer. Now, I know that each and every one of you doesn't always have that capability, but I'm hoping with some of what I shared today, you can take a nugget of wisdom with you, or we can talk further in the future and collaborate on ways to, really change up the way in which we're offering meetings and the way that we're hosting events, and make it an experience that your guests and attendees can walk away from saying, that was a really different experience. That felt really unique, and they have something to take home with them that can not only help them in their daily life and with their daily health practices and rituals, but can also be something that they extend to the meetings and incentive and travel industry to be able to spread this love further and further. So my first question is, are you tired of the same old event planning, or maybe you're just tired? I feel like as an event planner, oftentimes we have so much pressure to get it all done. I know that my experience after many years of just grinding and burning the candle at both ends, I often found myself absolutely exhausted. And it's known as one of the most stressful occupations out there. And yet, what do we do for ourselves? We often feel the pressure to get it all done, but are we just going through the motions of getting it done and carbon copying what we did years before and just booking the same meeting places and the same meeting spaces and repeating the menus with a few tweaks and changes? Are we leaving it up to the on-site to perhaps infuse some water with some fruit and make it seem like we've adapted a cool new healthy menu, when in fact we've really just, nipped and tucked a few details to make it seem as though we're on the right track with this trend called health and wellness? I want to start with you, the planner, because I really truly believe that it starts with us. And as I said, I had to learn this lesson for myself and be smacked down, so to speak, to really brush myself off, dust myself off, get back up, and start actually living and walking the talk instead of just pretending and being this fake that would put together what I thought was a healthy meeting and event when I, in fact, was the least healthy person there. Planners are often the ones who have to get it all done, as I said. We're the ones who have to act unflappable. Everything's fine. Everything's great. Smooth sailing. When in fact, behind the scenes, we're going nuts. We're putting on more makeup. We're doing more hair. We're putting on a fancier outfit with more accessories to try to give the impression that everything's cool. We're looking great. We're looking well put together. Darker lipstick, whatever it might be. But today I want to talk about some daily rituals and practices that I've adopted over the past few years that's really helped me keep myself sane, and it's helped me keep health top of mind while I'm also creating unique and healthy events for others. I love this picture in particular because I feel, and we can all relate to the fact that we're connected to our phones. We're always connected. We're more connected than we've ever been, and the demands that are placed on us, or we place on ourselves to stay in touch and be connected and know what's happening and literally be available around the clock, has added more and more stress to each and every one of us. So what I want to talk about next is how we're going to travel well, sleep well, and really fill the well for ourselves. I want to start with you because you're the ones who have to be on top of it. I've put together in this deck just some really quick tips and hints for travel, and you might look at these and think, well, these are obvious. These are pretty common sense. And I used to think that too, but I wasn't actually doing them. I was telling people how to do them. I was putting them into my beautiful invitations that I was sending out to my guests and my attendees saying, here's some tips and hints while you're traveling. But I myself wasn't doing them. So I wanted to share with you some things that you should consider. And one of them is as simple as taking a scarf, wrapping it around yourself, keeping the drafts and the germs out. Put an eye mask on the plane. We often get on an airplane and think we need to hack away and be on our computer and be checking furiously through our checklists and making sure that we have everything ready to go and done and buttoned up. In fact, that's the perfect time to unplug. As somebody who has airplane anxiety, I hate looking at a computer. In fact, I can't. It will make me motion sick. So I have the great excuse of unplugging completely, despite the fact that you can have Wi-Fi in the air. And I use this time to premeditate. This is my pre-game time. I put on my sleep mask. I don my scarf. I make myself into a little bit of a cocoon, as creepy and as weird as this may sound. And I use this time for some me time. It's a really great time to walk the event from start to finish. And even if you're not on a plane, you can do this while you're driving. You could do this on your hotel room floor. You could do this in your office. You could do this as a team. But walk through the event and see it being successful. It sounds hokey. It sounds like that airy-fairy yoga stuff, but trust me when I tell you it works. And when you can see it in your mind's eye, it's already successful for you and you're paving the path to success. My biggest life lesson is take me time. Take it now. Don't wait till the end of your event. Take it as soon as you arrive. Carve out little nuggets of time or quick wins of me time along the path to planning your event. We often go at it head first, just running, going, saying, I'll book myself a massage, or I'll take a few days off, or I'll do all of these things at the end. But what about during? What about throughout? You'll never see a football player on the field. You'll never see him not stop and have a big Gatorade or water or get a quick massage from his sports coach. Why aren't we doing that too? I know that travel is sexy on the outside, but there's a whole lot of hurry up and wait time. And we know that it's not fun when you're in those lineups and you're in those wait spaces and you're just waiting. This is the perfect time to breathe, to unplug from your phone, even if it's for 5 minutes. Challenge yourself. Can you actually put it down for 5 minutes and use that time for good? Because this is where we all complain there's not enough time. Well, we're planners. Carve out that time. Schedule it. And always don't forget to hydrate. Travel light. I'm a yogi and I'm getting better at this, and it's not an easy message, but I look at so many planners who are covered in bags and folders and multiple suitcases, and they're dragging around outfit upon outfit for the entire time that they're in motion, so to speak, in action. Leave those shoes at home. Curate a beautiful outfit day by day for yourself. Prepare and get ahead of the game. Pack a small shrine for your hotel. Focus on getting grounded when you arrive so that you can feel relaxed, and you can insert a signature scent here. I said earlier, or you may have seen earlier on the slide about essential oils, and I'll speak a lot about them. And you can find your version of this. But it's finding those pieces that you can take with you, whether it's to your office or to a meeting, to really ground yourself and make yourself feel at home or make yourself feel at peace with a very chaotic situation happening around you. Yoga is like an important meeting with yourself. Bosses don't cancel. So be the boss of your life. Take time for you. I don't want to lecture here, and I won't get started because I can go on and we could stay on this slide for the rest of our time together. But this was the hardest lesson that I had to learn, was actually taking the basic steps of nurturing myself first, eating a healthy breakfast, drinking a glass of water, not just pounding endless cups of coffee, which I used to do. And I would leave myself absolutely frazzled with a stomach ache, needing to rush off to the ladies' room because I felt awful. Rest up and resist the temptation to go out and party and be the life of the party when you're the one who has to host the whole party. It's about finding that balance and being really true to what makes you, you. And for me, I have found that by putting in my yoga classes, scheduling time to just go for a walk, I even sometimes will get outside and take my planning meetings or calls during a walk, or ask my meeting partner if I can walk with them instead of us just sitting face to face in a dark meeting room. This is my slide where I lecture you to take you on, take yourself on. Now is the time. We're in that season of harvest and September is upon us, where I always look at it as back to school. So take a few moments after this webinar and schedule some time that you carve out, and that's the do not unblock time that you put into your calendar and your schedule, whether you're planning a meeting, you're in the midst of a meeting, or you're getting ready for what's upon you in the next season. This may sound crazy, but I'm going to actually ask each and every one of you now to join me in something that may make you a bit uncomfortable, but we're going to meditate together. Some of you, I wish we could all put your hands up or not put our hands up so I could see how many. I'd love to know. Some of you have probably always wanted to meditate, or you think that you'll get to meditating one day in your life and put it into your repertoire. And I used to work with the woman who led meditation, and I say used to because she's located in Vancouver and I currently work in Toronto. But she is our meditation guru, and we actually at our Lululemon head office have a meditation room. And every day meditation is offered for 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon. And she's our mind philosophy director, and she has to lead them regardless. People are counting on her. And so every day at about 3:05, she and I would be in our meeting, and she'd look at her watch and say, I've got to go. Come on, let's go. I've got to lead meditation. Are you coming? And I'd say, no, I'm too busy. And then I thought, wait a second, what am I saying? I'm not too busy. She has to go lead it. She's my meeting partner right now, who I'm in this meeting with anyway, and off I would go. And I would always feel a little anxious walking into it and actually leaving my phone behind for 15 whole minutes. But I can't even explain to you how refreshed and able and ready I was to tackle the rest of my day, because fatigue sets in at 3 or 4 o'clock. So it's a great time of day. Truly, it's a great time of day any day and any time of the day. But it's a great time of day to stop and consciously get control of your breath and take a scan of your body and see how you're feeling. Are you feeling tired? Are you feeling grumpy or anxious? Are you fed up? Are you nervous? What is it that's going on and why? And take a few minutes to check in with yourself. And most importantly, trust. Trust your body. It's never going to lead you astray, but listen to it. Don't just ignore it and keep going, because it's much like something you brush under the carpet. Eventually that bump is going to get so big you're going to trip over it and fall flat on your face. So back to meditation. I'm not letting you off the hook. As silly as you might feel, I'd like each and every one of you to take a comfortable seat. Roll your shoulders back. Sit up nice and tall. Plant both feet on the ground. I can't see you, but you better all be doing it. Now, if you're feeling like you need abundance and you're needing to receive energy, place your palms on your lap facing the sky. If you feel like you need to be grounded, turn your palms over, face down, and rest them gently on your knees. Now close your eyes. I know you feel silly, but do it anyway. Trust. Close your eyes. And I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath in through your nose. And we're going to hold that for 4 seconds. Let's do it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. And release through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keeping your eyes closed, invite the mantra, I am. Say it to yourself. You don't need to say it out loud. Keep breathing and keep the mantra going, I am. I'm going to watch the time. We're going to meditate for 2 minutes. Go ahead and keep breathing. I'll watch the time. Enjoy. If you feel your thoughts beginning to wander, focus on your breath and bring it back to the mantra, I am. Keeping your eyes closed, release the mantra. Take a deep inhale through your nose, and let's all sigh it out together through our mouths. One more time, deep cleansing breath through the nose, and sigh that out through your mouth. All right, open your eyes, and let's be here now. Hoping that left you feeling a bit more refreshed and able to continue on with me. Next, I want to talk about sensory gifts and the sensory experience. Essential oils are an incredible way to add a sense of calm. They're great for fending off germs as well. I often use them when I get on a plane. Under my nose, I rub them on my hands. They're a lot less drying than the alcohol ones that you often find as antibacterial. Scent can be a bit much these days. I'm finding I walk into a lot of hotels, especially when you're in Vegas, and they pump all kinds of fragrances into the air. And I find those are a bit overwhelming. So I often ask hotels and meeting spaces to minimize those or actually stop them altogether. And this is where I'll bring in a sensory experience that I've created on my own, where I'll mix together some oils, or I'll use one of the nebulizers that you can find on Amazon or at any of these essential oil places. Sage in Canada is a great one, or Young Living is another great one in the U.S. And the diffusers are a great way to spread the scent without overpowering guests, but they can really set the tone for what you're trying to achieve in that part of the day. If it's in the morning and you want guests to feel really relaxed and calm, lavender is always a great scent. Or if you need to revitalize and wake people up, you can look for citrusy scents. But I find this is a really non-offensive way to get people invigorated, set the tone, set the mood, and it's a nice way to fill the space. And people don't even need to know it's happening. It can be a very subtle nuance that you leave in the background. I often will bring in plants now where I weave in herbs and lavender and actual great smelling plants that can emanate their essence into the air around and weave them into the floral arrangements or the decor that I'm using in the room. Eucalyptus is a great one for this as well. That way we're not having to spray Febreze and things that are chemical laden that could make people's allergies go a bit crazy. I wanted to bring this sensory experience into my guest experience. So I often do this through the gift boxes and the giveaways that I curate. I wanted to share with you two that I put together recently, and I made the whole theme about sleep. I did one specific for women and one specific for men. And I was thinking through the lens of, I really want my attendees to feel well rested. I think this event in particular was at a Westin, and they claimed to have the heavenly bed, but I thought, let's take this one step further. So rather than giving guests something that can end up in the landfill or they don't really want to take it home because it's too clunky or it's overly logoed and it's basically junk, think about mindful gifts and things that you can give them to help the self-care continue on. I did this whole entire sleep package for my guests, both for women and men, doing things like detoxifying bath salts, putting together candles, copper cups for them to use at the side of their bed. I gave them a crystal that enhances sleep and grounding. Some of this might be too far-fetched and a little too airy-fairy, as some of my friends often tell me when I try to promote this in my circles. But I think it works, and I use natural elements to tie it up with raffia and dried eucalyptus and lavender. And when the guests open this box, they know that it's specially curated for them. And it may not exactly be the theme of what you're trying to promote, but it's the theme of people, and it's the theme of wellness, and I think you can never go wrong with that. Space, the venue, retreat style. Space has been a really interesting endeavor, especially moving in the world of Lululemon. Oftentimes we're looking for cool and unique spaces for meetings. This is where I really challenge you and encourage you to think outside of the box. Where can you take your guests where they can have an incredible meeting time together, they can connect, they can learn, they can grow, they can have workspace, but they can also have free time and they can have space together to do things outside of the box. I love these pictures because they represent to me the ancillary events that you can host, even while at a conference center or in a hotel corporate setting. Take them to the top of a mountain. Let them have their morning meeting up there. Maybe they can even hike up there. Set the stage outside. Maybe there's a beautiful grassy area where you can have a screen and a projector brought out, and take the pillows and chairs and whatever you need outside to cop a squat on the grass and be really tuned in to nature and also tuned into what you're teaching them. I love the one on the bottom left because I call it a board meeting. I mean, what better way to challenge people to try something new, but also still get the message across of whatever you're trying to promote or whatever your client is looking for in terms of time together to connect with their guests, their people, or their clients. When selecting sites, focus on the spaces where your guests can really break out and truly connect with each other and connect with themselves, or look for spaces where they can disconnect from it all. I often have taken boardrooms and even large ballrooms and made them into yoga spaces. As you can see in the center picture, I put yoga mats with tennis balls, and we just did something as simple as rolling our feet on the tennis ball to get that, that release from running around all day and being in a conference. Even if you're not willing to take your crew through a really juicy yoga class, we can do gentle stretches. There's all kinds of levels and layers of yoga. So don't be afraid to use mats and non-traditional seating. As you see here, we put our teams on the floor. They sit on the ground. I also created something recently called The Wall. This was something where guests were able to release what it is they weren't going to bring into the meeting, and they actually wrote it on a piece of paper and tied it on the wall behind them. And we provided a lounge for them, which was a little writing center for them to journal and just have some free time and space, even if they needed to use their phone and send out messages and texts. But I consider it a Zen zone where I ask for there to be minimal talking. And it's a space for quiet reprieve to reflect on what they're learning, what they need to get done. Perhaps they need to step out and get work done to be able to be present to the meeting that's happening. I want to be able to provide those spaces. So when you're on a site tour, look for those areas in a hotel that you can transform. It doesn't always have to be a ballroom. Empty it of all of its furniture. Toss in a whole bunch of cushions or soft seating and couches. Head Talks is the best example of this. They do all kinds of different seating. They haven't stuck to the formal conference center setup. They have all kinds of flexible seating, so you get to choose your own adventure, whether you're lying on big sofa beds, or you're hanging in a hammock, or you're even sitting on the ground on a yoga mat. Anything is possible. I've even projected nature. We don't always have natural daylight, and it's a big ask, especially when people are sitting in meeting rooms day after day for endless hours. It can be really hard to be in recess lighting or process lighting, as I like to call it. I like to provide that natural ambiance by using real plants, real flowers, as I said earlier, herbs and great smelling plants and flowers to just have that beautiful essence surrounding the room. If you're going to spend that money anyway for table decor and centerpieces, why not put it into something that's living that you can then pass on or donate or give as a gift, and people can plant it and it continues living. Creating space or breathing room. As I said, Zen zones and writing stations, they're a really great place to have as a breakout. It's not traditional, and it may be deemed as some as a waste of time. I think it's an investment in time. It's an investment in me time. It allows your attendees to have a space to just take a moment for themselves. These rooms can be put away from the rest of the main thoroughfare, so there's a bit of quiet. You can, again, add the misters, the essential oils, and candlelight. And when you need to bring people back to the main event, use gentle chimes and indicate it's the end of the break. I've even done guided meditation in some of these rooms where I offer headsets and iPods that have a guided meditation for them to select whatever level they'd like to listen to. And they get to listen to a beautiful voice on the other end, leading them through breathing techniques and just calming them down from an otherwise frenetic pace that they're at their conference or meeting. Stretching rooms and breathing rooms have been a really fun endeavor for us. We've had all kinds of rooms set up where you have the rollers, tennis balls, yoga mats, stretchy bands, And really, it's a free-for-all. It's a place for guests to come in, put their phone down, and they have a charging station off to one side, and they literally can roll around on the floor. I'm also a big user of bolsters and cushions now. I love to bring in turf grass to cover some of these ugly carpets we see in the ballrooms of hotels and conference centers. And, you know, again, add those living trees and plants. The oxygen does wonders. In these pictures, what I'm showing is a refresh station. I love refresh stations, especially if I'm having yoga or any kind of exercise during a conference or meeting. If our guests have gone out for a hike or walk and they're coming right into a meeting, they don't have time to take a shower. So I'll put together what I call a refresh station, which has misters, face mists. It has some beautiful Evian water sprays, breath mints, hair ties. The sky's the limit. I've done all kinds of fun things with these stations, and it's a really great icebreaker because people can come over and play and talk about it and ask questions. Fuel and beverage is one of my favorite subjects. I know there's lots to be seen on Pinterest, and I know my mind goes crazy when I go on Pinterest, not to mention my stomach. I get hungry and I don't even know where to start. But I can say keep it natural, keep it simple, and have fun with it. Most importantly, stay hydrated. I always say make water fun. Water is our best friend, and oftentimes I go to meetings and the only thing available is hyper-sugared juices and sodas that just are not my thing and make me feel awful if I have too many. So I have fun with garnishes. I've even set up kombucha stations, iced tea stations where they can add in different sugars and different garnishes to add flavors, and add natural juices to your bar. Add natural garnishes to your bar. This doesn't mean to say that we can't drink and have a great time, but perhaps select items that are a bit more health conscious. Mezcal and tequila, for example, they're so on the forefront of health and wellness, and they're so interesting and fun to play with. For food and fuel, as I like to call it, I like to always have something in a meeting room. I hate when I see guests feeling agitated and almost starting to lose their patience and look twitchy, and they look like they can't pay attention because they're starving and they don't know what to eat, or what they've eaten earlier just hasn't fueled them properly. So I always believe in having something along with my refresh station at the back of the room, whether that's some dark chocolate pieces, some mixed nuts, some whole fruit, just something that they are allowed to stand up, wander over, and help themselves to, or put a paper bag there that they can take it back to their table, or better yet, integrate it into the centerpiece of the table so that they have something to nibble on. It keeps them occupied. It also keeps them fueled to be able to take in what you're saying and what's happening around them. I find for food stations, deconstructed is the way to go. I don't know if you have the same challenge I do, but I work with a lot of very health enthusiastic people, and I have every single health, wellness, dietary restriction under the sun. And I remember my first ever event with Lululemon, I had 1,000 attendees, and 41% of them had some kind of dietary issue. Or not issue, I should say, but dietary preference, whether it was the keto diet or the Whole30, or they were a vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, you name it. I had a lot of fun with the matrix of trying to figure that one out. And for me, it was deconstructed all the way. And believe it or not, I get my inspiration from just walking through something as simple as Whole Foods, looking at those beautiful counters of freshly prepared foods, but everything is in its own container. It's its whole food, and they can mix it as they see fit, building Buddha bars, noodle bowls, rice bowls, breakfast bowls. It really helps the guests to be in choice. Then they're not compromising whatever health plan they may have started prior to coming to your meeting, but they may also get the chance to try something new or try some new combinations of food that they've never ventured to put in their mouth before. So it's a really fun way to do it. Picnics for 6 is a great way to get guests to connect. This is something that can even be done indoors. And I have to give credit to TED Talks. I saw it there. I can't take full credit for this one. But in order to get your picnic basket, you had to find 5 other people that you'd never met before. And once there were 6 of you, you got to go over and pick out some blankets, and your basket would be given to you, and off you'd go. Whether you'd go outdoors, indoors, you'd go and find a space throughout the venue, and off you would go, spread your blankets, and have a picnic. What a great way to connect, and what a fun way to sit on the ground and just be kids again. Tuck Shop Till You Drop is a favorite of mine, as well as farmers market. This was something that we did when we didn't know what to serve everybody at a conference, and we didn't know how to fuel them ongoing. So what we did is we opened up a farmer's market in advance of the event starting and gave everybody a bag that they could take through this farmer's market, and they could select items from fresh fruit, avocados, toast, eggs, all kinds of things that they could take back to their room, their suite, in fact, where they had kitchens. If you don't have kitchens, it can just be simply snacks. Or they can have a fuel box that they get to put together and take with them to the meeting so that they have what they need to set themselves up for the day. They never have to worry or wonder of where their next snack or meal is coming. It's right there on their lap in front of them. Invite your guests to dine in silence. This is a good one. Not for everyone, but it can be fun. If you're really going full hog on the yogi experience or that really mindful event, we've done breakfasts in silence where you just don't speak and you intentionally get the chance to chew and enjoy your food and taste it. And it is one of the strangest, most calming experiences you'll ever have. I dare you to try it. Gurus, speakers, and teachers is a lot of fun. Obviously, none of us can maybe only some of us can afford good old Deepak and some of those very high-level speakers that are so iconically known in the health wellness industry. But why not look locally? You can look in your community or look in the area that you're heading into to host your event or meeting. There are so many fun, different, and unique instructors that can be brought into the mix, from yoga instructors who often can also lead meditation. Often they can also lean into things like crafting vision and goal sessions for your people. And these don't have to be, all day things. These can just be woven in as break times or as a way to have a refresh. You could have energy healers come in and talk to people about what it is that they need to release in their life. We've even had a breathing coach come in and lead an entire ballroom of people on all kinds of different methods that they can adopt and use anywhere from, their airport waiting room lounge where they don't look too crazy to something like loud and proud that they can do at home that is true breathing, getting into the depths of their diaphragm. Something that people often don't do and we take so for granted. So I encourage you to look within your communities and ask around. I often, believe it or not, call my local Lululemon. They're the best one-stop shop. And a lot of external guests, I work there, so I have that upper hand of knowing. But for all of you, I encourage you to call them. They often know who are the best teachers in that area, who's the best at HIIT class, who's the best at yoga, who is the best Reiki master, and maybe they can come in and lead a cool session for you. But look outside of the regular same old, same old. It's so fun to weave these in and change things up. We recently invited an astrologist to an event at Lululemon, and I thought, wow, this will be interesting. And people could not get enough. She was wonderful. She told everybody about their earth signs, their water signs, their fire signs, and their air signs, and people still talk about it today. Something different, something unique, but it's something about them that they can take home with them. Holistic nutritionists are also a really cool, interesting pop-up that I'm seeing in a lot of events. They can not only help you curate and establish how to build your menu and your breaks and your snacks and all of the interworkings of your food and beverage, but they could also be available on standby to have sessions or breakout sessions with your people. You could have all kinds of different healers set up in different rooms to engage your guests in a different way. Take them on a journey that they may not get to have in other places. Everybody says they want to speak to a nutritionist, but have they taken the time to actually do it? Always educate your guests on why you made this for them or what's in it for them. I think one of the biggest misses is often adding all of these elements in and not really sharing with guests why or how to interact with it, how to engage with it, and why it's good for them or why you chose to do it that way. I remember the first time I ever put together an Ayurvedic menu. Ayurvedic is a pretty specific thing. It's pretty limited. It's pretty bland. It's pretty boring in terms of a menu and the way that you eat. And I remember getting the feedback from a lot of the attendees of how hungry they were and how kind of annoyed they were that where was the food, and they didn't really understand what it was we had put in front of them. It was a pretty big risk, and we failed because we failed to educate. But you can have fun in the education of it. There's so much to learn about why a raw diet is good for you and what you can take away from it. And not only that, it can also educate them to continue it in their own life and take it home to their family. And if they never want to do it again, at least they've tried it. And you don't have to commit 100% to this throughout your whole event. You could just have nods to it. Try a keto lunch. Try a vegan dinner. It's a lot of fun, and it stretches you to think, and it stretches people to try something totally new. We've also done fun things like mallet bead making and healthy happy hours. Take those traditional breakouts and those sessions that you put together and those agenda items and flip them on their head. They can still exist, but how can you add health and wellness into them? How can you curate them to have a healthy edge or a healthy element built within them? It will leave everybody feeling so refreshed. It will leave people feeling inspired. They've tried something new and they may not even understand why, because they're eating whole foods. They're drinking and hydrating in a way that they perhaps haven't done otherwise. Instead of running around burning the candle at both ends, being hungover, having a TEDache, as they say at TED Talks, because you're taking in just a fire hose of information, why not leave your guests feeling refreshed, relaxed, rejuvenated, and ready for more? And always stop and take time to have gratitude, learnings, and appreciation. Ask for feedback. Ask your guests what worked, what didn't. It can be scary to see the results, but I have to tell you, as I've made this transition and really gone deeply into some of these high-risk, very unique and kumbaya-type scenarios that I've created, they've worked. And people have walked away saying, wow, that was cool. Wow, that part I never want to do again, but that other part I loved. I'm going to bring it to my events. I'm doing this in my meetings with my people. I have all kinds of leaders that tell me, I wasn't brave enough to lead meditation, but it's really not that hard. They went on YouTube and learned a few tips and techniques, and now they start every one of their meetings with just a simple breathing exercise. So appreciate yourself and have gratitude for even being willing to try and take these risks and take this journey. And if you want to reach out and talk more or walk on the beach and do yoga with me, call me. I'm happy to talk this through. I love it. It is truly a practice that I've adopted in my own life, and I continue to pepper into others' lives as much as I can and wherever I can, however big or small. And I encourage you to do the same. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to the Q&A.
Thank you, Deb, for that awesome presentation and meditation. We just received a lot of comments actually in the feed about how much people needed that little break just to breathe. So we will now begin our Q&A session, and you may submit your questions by typing in the Ask a Question box below the speaker photo on the left-hand side of the slide deck, and then hitting send. So our first question is, how do you do all of this while sticking to a budget?
I would say look for ways to cut out. I'm a big stickler for not printing, logoing, labeling, vinyling, everything. I am really leaning into not filling the landfill. I totally understand brands need to be emphasized and highlighted, but that's where I look first. I look for ways that I can cut out on waste. So rather than using something like a centerpiece, and the florist, if there's florists on the line, may want to kill me for saying this, but rather than buying a cut flower centerpiece, maybe integrate your snack and your herbs and things onto the table that aren't as pricey and guests are eating, so you're already paying for those items anyway. I would also ask a hotel or conference center, what do they have that you can pull from? Sometimes they have all kinds of soft seating around the hotel that they're willing to bring into the room. I've even borrowed palm trees and different potted plants from around the building that they've allowed me to use because they see the direction that I'm going with this, and they allow me to integrate that into my event space so that I'm not having to rent and bring it all in. But really, the only way is to swap it out. and to really get real with yourself about what is needed and where is this going to go. I try to look at each asset that I'm bringing to an event and decide, is this going to go into a landfill, or is the guest actually going to use this and take it home and cherish it? And if the answer is landfill, I'm more and more times than not, I'm going to get rid of it and bring in something that I believe is healthier and more beneficial to them and to the overall good of the planet.
Great. Okay, next question is, how do you suggest integrating these ideas into a highly educational medical conference?
I would say all of the ways. I would start small. I mean, I would definitely start with menu. I would start with breathing room. And I would write my agenda in a way where I build in some pockets of time for exactly these elements. We start just about 99% of our meetings with a guided meditation. It can be as short as 5 minutes, but even the 2 minutes that we did, 2 minutes can seem like a lifetime when you're meditating, and really just closing your eyes for just 2 to 5 to 15 minutes, if you can spare the time, makes a world of difference. I think with medical conferences as well, I often look at things, again, the amount of lighting, the amount of branding, the amount of plastic you're bringing into the situation or the room. If it smells like plastic, you've used too many things that are processed. Try to use greenery wherever you can. Try to cut down on that carbon footprint. The medical industry will thank you most for that, because that's something that's emanating plastic into our breathing space. I would say get outside of the box too. Send the doctors out or the medical field out into the field. Get them to go and do a scavenger hunt or something that really takes them out of their comfort zone to get them into this mindset. Sometimes it takes a really big shakeup or one activity for people to go, aha, something is different here.
Right. Okay, perfect. Next question. What is the name of the facility or company that was mentioned with the flexible seating?
TED Talks.
In your presentation?
So TED Talks is one of the ones that I first and foremost saw the coolest setups, and you can usually find them on Google and Pinterest, but they did all kinds of different seating. So instead of having a conference where everyone sits in the same uncomfortable banquet chair, they add in layers of couches, cushions, and then they also allow their attendees to be in breakout rooms where they have a live feed coming in, so that if they really do need somewhere that they can continue working and taking emails and taking phone calls silently, not phone calls, I shouldn't say that, but if they have to be on their phone, they can go into other rooms where they've had hammocks and they have different styles of seating set up so that guests can choose their own adventure as to how they want to sit and take in what they're learning.
Okay, and what were the brands or companies that made the wellness gifts? They were Pocket Pharmacy, Young Living, and
Sage is the one that, if there's one called Sage, S-A-J-E, and they're born and bred in Vancouver, just like Lululemon, Vancouver, Canada. But they've actually now opened in the United States as well. So they're a wonderful company to talk to about all kinds of products, from essential oils to nebulizers, and they have really cool elements like Pocket Pharmacy that make for really great gifts for attendees.
Okay, perfect. Next question is, how would you sell any of this to a client that you're planning a meeting for and convince them to include it in their meeting agenda and budget? So I would start by planning a site tour and integrate some of these. So if it's at all possible, I would set the stage. So I would bring them into a meeting space and I would have some of these elements right in that meeting room where I'm pitching them. I'd bring in their lunch in the same fashion as how I would want to serve it to a guest, obviously on a much smaller scale. I would have a centerpiece, or I would have some beautiful potted plants, even if I bought them from the corner store, of herbs and things that really set the tone. So I would recreate a miniature version of it for them and put them through a version of the experiential elements so that they can feel what it's like. And to me, that's what sells. It's not an easy thing to
and not every company is going to be into it. But I feel like if people can themselves experience it and see how good they feel, that's the first win right there.
Okay. This actually leads right into another apropos question. Have you ever had any pushback on these ideas?
Of course. We've had lots of pushback. I mean, we brainstorm these ideas daily up the wazoo, and there's all kinds that come to the table, and we end up having to set them aside, or it's not the right time, or it's not the right audience. And not everything lands for everybody. I mean, it's like anything. You can go into, I recently went to a speaking event, and 3 different speakers were talking, and 2 out of 3, the guests were talking right through the whole entire presentation, and the third one, it was a captive audience. So it's very similar when you're adopting these sort of health, wellness, outside of the box ideas. Is not everything is always going to land, but you don't know until you try, and you have to test the waters, and you have to know your audience. You have to understand where your audience is coming from, and you have to meet them where they're at. I mean, obviously with working with Lululemon, we're hyper into this, and our people are already quite a ways along this journey. So it's very easy to integrate this quite quickly and go quite deep with it. And year over year, my Lululemon clients want even more depth. Whereas I would really take a hard look at who my guests were, who my audience is, and perhaps you can send out a poll or get, a cross-section of who those guests are to understand what level of integration you can bring forth.
Okay, perfect. There's another question here. Someone who absolutely loved your presentation, thought it was awesome, and Lululemon is a member of their association, and they're working on the program now. And her question is, what ways have you found best outside of, quote, more emails to keep the fit going after events and in touch with our members?
How do you keep in touch with people? I mean, it's tough.
Email and text. The fit going.
Keep the fitness going.
Right.
Of course. I mean, it might be something that you do where you give guests a beautiful journal, and the journal has pre-populated updates in it or reminders in it. Like even if it's a paper journal, rather than spending your money on other things again that they're going to throw in a landfill, perhaps you give them a fitness journal. Or again, I love giving people pieces that's almost like a shrine. And I've given people things from like a little Buddha statue to a beautiful crystal, something that they can put at their bedside table, and they need to write themselves a pledge or a promise, and they can fold it and burn it, or they can take it and put it away. But this is their piece that symbolizes that promise to themselves, and I find that has really helped work. It helps to keep people on track. So that's one way that you can do it that's more of an analog way. Email is obviously the go-to. It's just how you write the emails. I think when you're teaching someone and giving them tips and not just inundating them with yet more information, but perhaps like a cool little 5-minute video. I understand from a recent meeting with Facebook that gone are the days of static pictures, and it's all about movement and video. So I would suggest perhaps having a face of the brand too, having one person that can do a quick video blog that is showing a day in the life of their failures or of how they're doing, to help people relate to them and also still feel like they're keeping on track at the same time.
Okay, great. Next question is, what's an easy way to introduce these techniques into a program that hasn't had anything like it before?
There's no easy way. It's one step at a time. I think it starts, of course, with the top-down enrollment, is really highlighting and coming to the table with some facts and figures on the fact that the world is moving to experiences, not things, especially if you're dealing with millennials. Again, it really depends on who your audience is. You really have to know your audience and who they're representing. But I would say start small. Like there's some little, like I call it peppering. You can sort of put your pixie dust throughout and integrate some ways of saying like, listen, this year we're going to do this in my plan, maybe even write them a 3-year plan, or Maybe it's each day it gets a little bit more. I've done it where I've started an event with absolutely nothing, and each day I add more greenery, and each day I'm adding more elements that suddenly emphasize the fact that something totally different and unique is happening in this room. So the room is literally coming to life. And it can be so much fun because your guests know that it's happening, but they don't know that it's happening because it is that sensory experience that's around them, and it's very subtle. So I would say start with subtleties, but I think you would truly have to live under a rock if you didn't notice the health movement that's happening in our universe. If you look on Instagram, if you look on, what people are looking for, they're craving ways to feel connected. They're craving ways to have more time and feel more healthy. So I think it's a no-brainer, but I do think facts speak volumes, and it needs to be very simple and very easy to understand. Keep it simple and don't try to do everything at once.
Okay. What's your favorite group size is the next question.
Ooh, it totally depends. I had the pleasure of event planning a 22-night yoga teacher training, which we did in 2 modules, 11 nights. So that's a fully immersive situation, and we took 40 people. I'd say that was the biggest love fest I've ever had in terms of just getting to know one another, and you become very tribal, and everybody just loves, each other and has these amazing dynamics and breakthroughs, and there's a lot of comfort. 40 is a great group number if you're really trying to land a very strong, very significant message. But I like a group anywhere from 150 to 1,000. I mean, my first events with Lululemon were 1,000 attendees from all over the world, and that really challenged me to think this way and adopt all of these principles. So I would say it's all about scalability. There is no such magic number. It just depends on what it is you're trying to do, and I think sometimes you can have a lot of fun with a lot of people.
Okay, probably room for 1 or 2 more questions here. We've got a lot of good ones. One is, did you encounter any negative feedback from a religious standpoint surrounding the astrologist?
We did not. No, it doesn't have any religious undertones to it.
Okay. Next one is,
I think it really depends on the one you use.
I'm sorry, it depends on the one you use, you said.
Yeah, just do your homework and ask for lots of references.
Okay, perfect. And next question is, can you clarify if the venue charged corkage for the farmers market items, or were the items provided by the venue?
In my particular case, it was a combination. So yes, we had to pay a handling fee and we had to pay a rental fee, and we were not allowed to sell. Well, we weren't actually selling because we were the buyer. We were not allowed to bring in items that they could bring in for us. So certain particular items were brought in by the hotel, and then they charged us. Certain items they charged us corkage, and the rest was covered under the umbrella of paying for the meeting space. We just weren't allowed to sell, or sorry, I keep saying selling, but it was fake money. We weren't allowed to give away anything that you could potentially purchase in all of their gift stores, because it was quite a big conference center that had a whole little mall, if you will, with gift stores. So as long as we didn't compete, but I think every venue is going to be quite different on that one. So you may have to work with the venue to curate it.
Okay. We have several more questions, but we've run out of time here, so we will answer some of them in our Take 10 on the webinar page with Deb here. But so as we close out this presentation, there's just a few important pieces of information we'd like to share with you. Be sure to join us on September 5th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Negotiating When Timing is Everything, presented by Joan Eisenstadt. And we hope you can join us for that. And also available on our website, you'll find a vault of information on past webinars available for you to view at any time at your convenience, including this presentation by Deb. You simply visit meetingstoday.com/webinars to learn more about these events, or click on demand webinars and watch now. Once again, we would like to thank our generous sponsors who make it possible for us to bring these events to you at no charge. Thanks today to our West sponsor, Park Hyatt Beaver Creek Resort and Spa, and our national sponsors, Naples, Marco Island, and Everglades CBD, and Palace Resorts headquarters. Upon completion of this webinar, you're going to be redirected to today's related webinar club page. Each webinar has its own unique webinar club page where you can download the presentation, view the webinar on demand, obtain your CMP credit certificate, and much more, including viewing related articles that we've produced. Today's webinar club page is at www.meetingstoday.com/webinar-club-wellness. If you're not automatically redirected, you may also visit our website, meetingstoday.com, and hover over the webinars tab in the navigation and click on Webinar Club in the drop-down menu. So thanks again to Deb G for this great presentation, and to all of you for joining us for this webinar. Have a wonderful, healthy day, be well, and we hope to see you again soon.